Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 145 of Psycho's Platters. That's right, 145 of Psycho's Platters. This one here is going to be, hey, since it's episode 145, why don't we go off and mention it all about 45's? And that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm trying to figure out a good title for this, but I think I'm just going to say a whole bunch of 45's, including some Northern Soul. Yes, I managed. Yeah, let me explain the story here. Always powered by coffee. It's almost midnight and I'm still drinking coffee, right? No wonder why I'm having problems sleeping. So seriously, what was it? Yesterday I went out and about here in northwest Arkansas, and first time I've been out in about 2 or 3 weeks in the area. And I didn't come across really much for most of my journey until the last 2 stops. One place that's known for having bunches of 45's, and then the second place I went to normally don't have so much. So let's go start with the one place, which is like I said, they were part of the circuit for me. Okay, so the first 3 here, I got a whole bunch of mixes of stuff, mostly 60s, alright? The first one right off the bat, I know the label ain't so great, but like I said, by the way, for the condition of most of these things, yes, they're going to need a good cleaning. I'm going to be lucky if I can get at least VG minus for most of these things, but some of them are at least VG pluses. You know, just like I said, just need some good cleaning. But, you know, a couple of these, the labels aren't so hot. For example, like this particular one here from the 45's, which is Say I Love You Doobie, and that one was the second hit actually from the band 45's. Now the 45's were a Brooklyn doo-wop group. This one here from 1964. They had such harmonies that their other 1964 hit, Be My Girl, was really a lot of people thought that the Be My Girl song was really the Four Seasons under an alias. That's how close the harmonies were. Now, they started out in 1957 as Marty and the Joltoneers. They renamed themselves the Vocal Lords in '58, cut a single for Argo. 2 members of this part of the band went with 2 other members from another Brooklyn vocal group called the Paladins to form the 45's. Steve Tutinger, I hope I'm saying this right, after the group split up in 1967, this was the last hit for them. I think they ended up going to Columbia and Redbird shortly after Smash here. But when the group ended in 1967, he ended up involved in Archie's, Lobo, and Andy Kim records, singing backgrounds. Then he actually went into singing advertising jingles. What would you know him from? He's the one in the 70s that sang the Almond Joy jingle. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. You know the rest. It's him. It's him from the 45's that actually sang that. So I thought that was kind of neat. The next one here, I hope I can read this really well, because some of the labels just need a little bit of cleaning too, but it says here, When She Wants Some Lovin', My Baby Comes to Me, from the band Chicago Loop from Dino Voice. This was a Chicago group from 1966. This was the only 45 that they cut. This is a Bob Crew production, which of course Bob Crew ended up doing a lot of Four Seasons and a lot of other things too. The ones to come out of this band and do anything, mainly the drummer John Siomos. If that name don't sound familiar to you, that's okay. But what he ended up doing basically in the 70s is he ended up working with Todd Rundgren. He was the one that drummed on the Something Anything album's Hello It's Me. He's the one that drums on that. He worked with Mitch Ryder, solo Mitch Ryder, and he is also the drummer on the album Frampton Comes Alive for Peter Frampton. So I mean, he ended up rolling a nice decent career, and he's played with other acts too. Barry Goldberg on here, he played the piano. He originally started out before this cutting up, I think it was 1 or 2 singles for Capitol Records under the moniker the Goldberg Miller Blues Band. Miller being Steve Miller, of course, both from the Wisconsin area and Chicago area at that time frame. But so they ended up doing that. After this, he would end up forming the band Electric Flag. Also, though, at least on this particular single, on electric guitar, Mike Bloomfield. Mike Bloomfield, of course, Chicago native. He started out working as the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Did some stuff for Bob Dylan, of course, and then he also formed Electric Flag along with Barry Goldberg too. So pretty neat to have this one in the collection too. On that, but so Chicago Loop. Actually, it was a top 40 hit, made number 37 in late '66 is where that one went to. This one here, the shortest little story about the whole entire thing. Dave Edwards' Sweet Sue from 1961 on Liberty. Don't really know much about this guy. I tried digging it up around here, and the closest thing, like I said, I can come up with is a '61 release. I listened to a bit of it on YouTube. It's a rocker with a little doo-wop backing. It's really, really cool. Go check it out. Like I said, Sweet Sue, Dave Edwards. The next one here, probably one of the more common things I found in the pile, but I could not pass up a copy of Electric Prune's Too Much to Dream last night. This one here came out in November 1966. It was a number 11 hit. First track on the Nuggets comp from Elektra Records in 1972. This one here, I should mention, was co-written by Annette Tucker. Annette Tucker previously co-wrote songs for Freddie Cannon and the Knickerbockers. In fact, it's the B-side to the single Lies. She ends up co-writing on that. She ended up later on writing for Tom Jones, Sonny and Cher, American Breed, Jackson 5, and many, many others. Now, the demo to this song, Too Much to Dream, actually was sung by Jerry Fuller, who he wrote Traveling Man, which of course Ricky Nelson ended up doing. He also was a touring member of the Champs. He later produced Mark Lindsay and wrote hits for Gary Puckett in the Union Gap. So I've always liked this song. James Lowe is one of my Facebook friends. I love the Prunes. If you don't get into that stuff, I suggest you do. So very killer, good 45 right here. By the way, one last little trivia note on that. The oscillating reverse guitar at the beginning of the song, Had Too Much to Dream, was pure recording accident. If you want to know more about that, go to Wiki for the particular song particulars. Alright. Everybody knows how much of a Monkees fan I am, but I'm also a solo Monkees fan. This one here needs a lot of cleaning, but I finally have a nice copy of Michael Nesmith and the First National Band's Silver Moon. This one came out in November of '70. I actually had 3 different chart placements during this time. Number 7 on the Adult Contemporary charts, number 28 for Cashbox, and number 42. It squeaked almost top 40 by that much on the Billboard 100. One of the members of the First National Band was John London, who he was musical and personal friends with Mike since 1963. So really, really cool that he was able to at least carry it that way for that. This one here, I hate to admit this, a little bit unknown here. White label promo, Columbia, Pat Payton. Sorry. You waited too long. The only hint I have, it's an R&B and soul. Like I said, I haven't been able to listen to some of these yet, but any interesting white label promos, I'm not going to pass them up, and you're going to see because I have more of them here. This next one, very cool tune. I went and listened to this quickly on YouTube. From January 1967, white label promo on Columbia, The Black Sheep with Feeling Down. I don't know too much about these guys except that they originally came from La Canada, California, and Jerry Ripley, who's the producer of this particular 45, was a member of the band called The Parade, and he would end up producing for We5 and Brewer and Shipley later on in in their careers. So really, really cool little garage 45. They cut a couple 45s for Columbia, but that one is from January '67. This one here, I'm not going to pass up promo Duran for anything whatsoever. This one here, Just One More Chance from the Outer Limits. This came out in April of '67. This was a UK-based group, but the only one that came out of this band was singer and guitarist Jeff Christie. He would end up, when the Outer Limits, they did one more 45 for the Immediate Records in '68, but afterwards, I think it was like late '69, they broke up, and in '70 he would form the group Christie, and would end up having a 1970 #1 hit with the song Yellow River on Epic Records. So really cool to find a promo Duran on that. Next one, from it's a brothers band from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I think that's a Milwaukee suburb, if I remember correctly. The Robs with Bittersweet on Mercury. Now, I know that the Robs ended up having a huge Chicago following. They did in the '60s. They pretty much were prevalent from '66 to '70, actually. But they started out in the early '60s under a bunch of other names. By 1965, they were called the Robs. They were spotted by Dick Clark, signed to Mercury in '66. In late '66 to early '67, they were on the TV show Where the Action Is, basically replacing Paul Revere and the Raiders. This particular song hit top 40 in a few markets, but it didn't chart nationally. The Robs kept going until 1970. In '71, they changed their name to Cherokee and cut an album as well. Chris Hillman, former Bird and Flying Burrito Brother, made guest appearances all over that album and the single. Bittersweet here was written by P.F. Sloan and Steve Barry, who, of course, they did a bunch of songs for the Grassroots and a few other people as well, which, by the way, the Robs were originally asked, hey, do you want to end up becoming the Grassroots? They turned them down, so they did that. Alright, next one here. I heard this one, really, really cool tune. Another white label promo, the What For with I'm Gonna Destroy That Boy. This one came out in October '66. Like I said, it is a girl group. It was produced by Teal McCarroll. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, he would be involved in Miles Davis's fusion albums, during that period. I thought that was, to go from doing stuff like this to Miles. I mean, that's cool that he was able to do that, but what a stretch on that, right? This one here was written by Artie Resnick and Ron Dante. Now, if those names sound familiar to you, good for you. If not, let me explain a little bit. Artie Resnick had some history going back to the late '50s, writing tunes like Under the Boardwalk, and then kept going and did things like Good Lovin', which originally was done by the Olympics, but the Rascals cut it, and he ended up in the late '60s involved in Buddhist/Super K Productions and did some work with Joey Levine. Ron Dante, like I said, co-wrote this song too, would end up in the Detergents. He would end up also doing mega work for the Archies, did some things for the Cufflinks, did some solo stuff, and of course would end up basically being musical and, I'm told, personal friends with Barry Manilow, and did a lot of commercial jingles too. I think he had something to do with the McDonald's tune, but I'm not sure about that. This side was great. This one here, not so good. As you can see, it's blue tinged. And you know what? The B-side's really not that good either. I went and listened to that. But I'm Gonna Destroy That Boy, definitely a good girl group rocker. You can't pass that up for nothing. Alright, so listen. Now we get to the real interesting piece out of all of it. I didn't even know what this was. I just got it because the label was weird. No More Heartaches, Art Posey, Scope Records, Detroit, Michigan. I try to research my stuff before I tell you guys all this. This was the one that was a bitch to find information on. So I'm going to tell you already that thanks to raresoli.co.uk, I actually found some information on Art Posey. This particular piece here, No More Heartaches, I didn't know this till I pulled this up. This is a rare Northern Soul piece. Northern Soul being a type of music that's very popular over in England, I'm led to believe. Very danceable stuff. You know, we're talking soul, R&B, just various instrumentals and things. I actually like this tune. I went and listened to this very briefly, but I looked on several different auctions for this particular piece because it said that there was various entries from Japan, France, Norway, and UK. If this thing was in near mint condition, it went for auction just last year, late last year, for a little over $200 in near mint condition. No, this isn't in near mint condition, but I will tell you, I think this could be a VG minus. So, you know, based on that, I would say this is at least maybe $100, $125 for this particular record right here that I got. I spent on average of about 45 cents a piece for these 45s. Not too bad. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. Art Posey, thanks to the information from the website, he was a backing singer at Motown, and he worked with David Ruffin, and here's a name, no offense, that sounds like a dancer at a club. Tata Vega. Does that not sound like something? I'm sorry, I know Tata's not watching, but that's what Tata Vega sounds like, a dancer at a strip club. But needless to say, so he worked with those, and he also was a talented writer and producer working with the Whispers, Donald Byrd, and others. Now, here's where my little ignorance comes in on this. I saw on several of these auction sites that they called this record a Marmite record. What's that mean? What's a Marmite record? I don't understand. A few of the other Marmite records that I looked at on a couple of these auction sites also commanded interesting figures. What is a Marmite record? If any of UK listeners out there, or just anybody that's into Northern Soul, can explain to me what this is all about, that would be greatly appreciated. So listen, you know, this channel's been actually growing by leaps and bounds. So I want to thank, and these are new subs since my last show, Homemade Reviews, Nico Malcolm, Steve Whitty, and Midnight's Calling is a few more of the new subscribers to the Psycho's Platter shows. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies about Psycho's Platters. Wax Museum with Ronnie Dark and Night Owl Lounge, the two best damn Sunday night shows out there. 6 to 9 p.m. Central for Wax, 9 to 10 for Night Owl, both off of the WVOA Syracuse, New York radio station. Mike Bolia remembers Alan Freed, another excellent show out of the East Coast. That one, if I remember correctly, it's either 7 to 10 p.m. Central or 8 to 11 Central. I apologize, Mike. I only get to listen every so often. But that's an excellent show. Go check that out. He's got a Facebook page. Also, Freak Beat with Ken Worth, 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard, out of 107.5 The Spy, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. That is an excellent show, Ken, that you do, based out of Oklahoma there. Also, the Vinyl Grotto, Doug Fields channel. He just did a new one actually today, and I enjoyed it considerably. Go like and subscribe his page. Thrifty Music Collectors Group, Tim Smith and Company, always a pleasure to watch your videos. Shindig, the best damn English rock magazine ever, by far. And lastly, the YouTube vinyl community, because without the YouTube vinyl community, none of us would be here. Indeed. I love you, VC, and until the next episode. Oh, you know, another new thing I should just say, you know how I always go off, I say, you always ask. Another thing that I should just throw out there is, you just never know what you'll find, will you? Out in the wild. It's a beautiful thing, guys. Take care. God bless. Rock on. See you next episode.